Welcome back, America, to Sound Retirement Radio, where we bring you concepts, ideas, and strategies designed to help you achieve clarity, confidence, and freedom as you prepare for and transition through retirement. And now, here is your host, Jason Parker.
America, welcome back to another round of Sound Retirement Radio. You're going to love this episode. You're listening to number 388, Real Retirement Stories. Richard. Before we get started, I like to get the morning started right with a verse, and this one comes to us from 1 John 4, verse 4. You, dear children, are from God and have overcome them, because the one who is in you is greater than the one who is in the world. Why do seagulls fly over the ocean? Because if they flew over the bay, we'd have to call them bagels. Are you ready to retire? Today's show, I'm interviewing a friend of mine who recently retired. Many of you will recognize Richard Tizano as he is an expert in elder law and estate planning. He's the author of a wonderful book on the subject called Accidental Safari, and he's been a regular guest on Sound Retirement Radio over the years. In today's show, we talk about his recent decision to retire, and we're going to dig into all of the details. And I'll have a link in the show notes to his book if you're interested. One of the new features we recently added to the Retirement Budget Calculator is that you now have the ability to connect an owner to an income stream. So you're going to want to make sure you update this in your retirement models. If you're a subscriber to the Retirement Budget Calculator, or if you want to see how it works, be sure to visit our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/retirement budget calculator. We use the YouTube channel to create how-to videos and also to announce new features and updates, so be sure to subscribe. My new book is almost ready for purchase. If you want to have early access to the book, visit soundretirementplanning.com and click on Subscribe Now. We will be sending an email to those on our list as soon as the book is available. Remember, articles, links, and resources for anything mentioned in today's show can be found at soundretirementplanning.com. Just click on episode number 388. Without any further ado, let's jump into my interview with Richard Tizano and hear more about his journey into retirement. All right, everybody, welcome back. So it's my good fortune to have Richard in the studio with me today. This is episode number 388. It's one of our real retirement stories where we get to talk to somebody that has actually made the transition into retirement and check in with them. Now, the cool thing about this, for those of you that don't know, Richard's daughter was just on the program with us the last show to talk about her coaching business where she helps people achieve their goals. And my friend Richard, he wrote a book. He worked as an elder law attorney before he retired, really considered an expert in this area of helping people transition into and through retirement. But his book was called Accidental Safari, or it is called Accidental Safari, still available on Amazon. Richard, welcome to Sound Retirement Radio. Welcome back as a retiree and not, our local expert.
That's right, a different perspective in the seat now. So.
Yeah, so now we get to talk about this transition you made into retirement. So first thing I'm curious about, and the first thing our listeners want to hear about is you came out and played pickleball with us the other day. Are you sore at all from playing a round of pickleball?
Oh, no.
No.
I'm in better shape now than I was when I was working.
Okay. All right. So why did you retire?
It was time. And I eased into it about a year before. I retired just this last January. And for the year before, that would have been 2020, I worked a 3-day work week. And I took a day. Anyway, I ended up getting 1 full week a month off. And sometimes I backed them up, so I had 2 weeks in a row off, the last week of 1 month and the first week of the next month. And I filled that time doing stuff and going places, and I felt like this could be good. So I let the office know that it was working, and probably the middle of the summer, I said, at Christmas, I'm going to be done after Christmas.
Wow. Was that a hard decision for you to make?
No, it just seemed like the right thing to do. It was like at the right time.
It was a natural transition for you at that point. I like the fact, and I hear this a lot, what you're describing is you went from working, you didn't go hard stop into retirement. You went from full-time down to working 3 days a week or 4 days a week, taking a week off. So you kind of made a slow transition into retirement. Looking back, are you happy you did it that way, or do you wish you would have just done a hard stop?
No, I think it helped my clients, helped me with my clients, and I should say my wife and my daughter worked with me for years, and So they were part of the decision, and they were all for whatever I was feeling or the direction I was going. So we worked together in having that happen, and it just the way it came together just seemed right.
Do you wish you would have retired sooner, looking back?
Well, I should say for your listeners that I'll be 73 in January, so I worked till I was 72 years old. Thank God I have good health, and so I didn't want to push it. I wanted to still be healthy enough to do stuff in retirement. So it seemed right. I could have retired earlier, a few years, but I was helping people, and that's really kind of what my life has been like. My mom had a stroke when I was 12 years old, was in a wheelchair for the rest of her life, and I really became who I am through that, and it brought me great satisfaction and gratification to help people. I'm very comfortable around handicapped people or old people or whatever. I am one, but that's who I became through the sickness of my mom, and so it's something that I've carried my whole life, and so that was one of the concerns I had. Well, if I'm not in a place where I feel like I'm really helping people, will I get depressed, or will I sit in front of the TV all day, or and that year that I took quite a bit of time off, it helped me realize it's going to be okay.
So that's not your identity. You're not the author. I guess you still are the author of the book about elder law, Accidental Safari. When we were out playing pickleball the other day, you said, maybe I'll write another book called Intentional Safari.
Right.
Tell us about those two different worlds, the accidental safari that you used to teach so many people about, and this new intentional safari that you've set out upon. Well,
as you go through life, you kind of have, some people are real planners and they have a real exact plan of what their life's going to look like. And then some people, they just have an idea, well, we're going to do this, and then, probably this will happen. And so you have this journey that lies before you. But unfortunately, too often in many places, or for many people, the journey kind of gets sidetracked, and you end up on this accidental safari. You're on a journey in a place you never would have wanted to go to, and it seems foreign to you, and you're dealing with medical terms, or somebody's had a stroke, or a big medical event, or something that changes the direction of your life. And so I was able to help people through that and giving them some guidance. Last week I was working with some guys, and one of them started asking me some questions about elder law, and I really got into it. I was explaining, going on and on, and I stopped and I said, "You asked me what time it was, and I told you how to build a watch here." But so it's still in there, and obviously I still am passionate about helping people in that way. But I also have the perspective that there's a real benefit to having an intentional safari and planning and saving, and if you're fortunate enough to have those pieces come together and to actually do it, then that's a whole joy you can have added to the life you have.
Just a moment ago, you said you're in better shape now than you were all those years working. And when we had Carly in here a week or so ago, she said you were doing water aerobics. Tell me about water aerobics, Richard. I have a hard time with this visualization.
Well, so part of our plan was we're spending some time in Florida, and so we moved into this manufactured home community, and they have pools, and they have this morning aerobics class. And so we figured, well, let's try it out. So Gloria and I, we get up at 8, and the aerobics class starts at 9 and goes for an hour. And so we were doing that every day, and I was feeling pretty good. We'd skip breakfast. That's something new. I used to always eat, and I found out I feel better when I don't eat breakfast. And so I'm really down to 2 meals a day. I've lost about almost 20 pounds since I retired.
Wow.
And so when we came back to Washington here, we thought, well, gee, we don't have a pool. What are we going to do? And so the Y, we went down and checked out the Y, and there's this silver sneakers thing in Medicare, and not everyone has it depending on the plan you end up with, but the basic Medicare, it's free membership if you're on Medicare and at the Y. So we just joined at the Y and started the aerobics class. Well, the aerobics here is like water aerobics on steroids. And so, and they had 2 classes a day. So Gloria wants to do 2 classes a day, and it's like with these water weights, and it was really, pushing it. So anyway, I'm thinking, I'm really getting into shape. And so I think Carly mentioned that we went on this big hike to Sperry Lodge in Glacier Park, and it's 6.5 miles up, and it gains like 3,500 feet. And I thought I was in pretty good shape, and we're going up there, and I'm pushing it, and the kids are very patient with me, and it was 3 of my kids went. Anyway, my daughter Hope, she was right up there. She was going, and I'm thinking, Hope, I thought we'd be, I'd be carrying you on my back, but you're doing this is so cool. Hope, how you doing? She says, well, I do weights at the Y. And she said, you gotta get over that water aerobic stuff. You gotta start doing weights. And so I took her serious. Now I'm doing a little weights with my water aerobics, but because it gives you more strength. It's a little more strength. The aerobics, is for your lungs and stuff, but now the weights builds your strength. And so I saw that I really do need that part of it. And so that was an eye-opener and expanding what I can do with myself and keeping myself healthy, and take a lot of natural supplements, and life is good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You mentioned Florida, and I know a lot of our listeners from around the country are going to want to hear more about this, but this is not unusual for people that live in Washington, because we get our fair share of gray skies and rain and cold weather here in the Northwest. I've talked to a lot of people up in Michigan and Wisconsin, and they get real winters, like really cold winters. And so it's not unusual for me to talk to somebody that says, when I retire, I want to spend a couple of months in someplace warm and sunny, and then, come back here when the weather's nice. So this is something that you guys decided to do. Tell us a little bit more about what that experience has been like for you so far, moving to someplace warm and sunny for the cold months here in Washington.
We were considering that we might do something like that. And personally, I didn't want to do the desert like Arizona. I liked where it's green and it's pretty hot in Texas. We were considering Texas. And then I have a lifelong friend. He and I used to go to church together when I was in high school, and we have kept in touch more or less. And he kind of out of the blue called me and said he and his wife had a timeshare with an extra bedroom, and did we want to go to St. Augustine and meet them there. So, and he lives just outside of Orlando. So we did that, went and visited him. And then after the week in St. Augustine, which was lovely, I think we went in the spring, late spring, we went back to his place in Orlando, and he just kind of casually mentioned, well, you got to retire one of these days, and my neighbor happens to be selling his house. You might be interested. So I went and met the neighbor, and the house was in a lovely spot. And so that kind of opened the door, and Gloria and I, we talked about it, and it seemed good. And so we made an offer, and it was a process. He was finding or building another house, and he needed like 6 months, and we weren't ready to do anything. And so we just, shook hands on it, and he eased out, we eased in, and so we'll try it out. We went in January. We came back to Poulsbo in May, and and summer was slow in coming. We came back, it was pretty cold here. But anyway, the summer.
Yeah, it was a long winter. I don't even know if you could call it spring.
Can't call it spring, right? But anyway, we're enjoying the summer here, and we're going to go back in late September, early October.
The happiest place on earth. You're right down the street. I remember at one point you guys were going, and they have all this entertainment that's happening in that part of the world all the time, all these concerts coming in, and that just sounds like it's been a lot of fun.
Right. You called me and I was at a concert.
You were, yeah.
Mercy Me, I think.
I couldn't believe you answered the phone.
Well, it was you. I saw your name there. So, but yeah, we got a Florida driver's license. I got a residence pass at Disney World, and for $300 you can go 5 days, weekdays, and includes parking. And so we try to go once a week and walk, and maybe get a meal, and they have concerts every day of different groups at Epcot. And so that's something to do. And there's just a ton of great churches. We found a church we love, and so it could check all the boxes. It was great.
Now, the cool thing, when you came to play pickleball with us the other day, two of my favorite things right now are pickleball and electric bikes. You came rolling up on a brand new electric bike. You and your wife both got these electric bikes. What's the vibe like in Florida? Do you are you going to bring that electric bike with you to Florida? And are there other people just kind of cruising around on electric bikes, or what's it?
There are. And, the when I got there, I happened to see a lady come by my house, and we made eye contact. I made some comment, and she stopped, and so she was telling me about her bike and that they got it from up here, and then her husband had checked out. So anyway, I had been thinking about a different brand, but I went and looked at that brand, and I was happy with it, so we bought it. And we have a Class B, a small camper van, and I got a bike rack. We're going to put the bikes on and drive them back with us in the end of September back to Florida.
Awesome. When we were talking the other day, you mentioned bucket list, and you've got a couple things on the horizon. And I have to plug the retirement budget calculator here because we just had our new goals feature come out, where we have an area for goals called lifetime goals, where you can put these bucket list items in there, and then you can be working intentionally towards checking them off. It's like, man, you own your time, and you can do whatever you want with whoever you want, see whatever you want. And so tell us about bucket list items. What are you excited about in the future, and what are some things you're hoping to be able to check off that list?
Well, it's funny you would say that, because just today I got a text from my daughter, Carly, and she asked me, because we're getting ready to travel to Rome at the end of the month, and so she asked me, what are the remaining places you want to visit on your bucket list? And so I thought of her show with you, podcast with you, and you got her on that track now. But then, I guess the life coach, that's what she does anyway. But so she's helped in a lot of ways, asking the questions that cause me to think about what's important. And so this is Italy and Israel were two things we're going to do on this trip to Europe. And it's a taste of what those are like, because it's a cruise. So we'll just get a couple days in Rome, and then we'll be in Israel for 3 or 4 days, and then go through Greece and back to Rome. But so it'll be a taste to see if, oh, good, now I checked that off. Is that really all I want to do? Or is it going to say, wow, this is pretty cool, I need to come back here and spend some more time? So that may be just the entree there. And then I've, in the last couple of years, I've gone to Alaska 3 times. And so there's twice in the summer, once in February. And there's just a vibe there that I really like. And so that might be something I do again, or maybe a little more regularly. I'm looking forward to driving back to Florida and see what we see, and if we're going to make that journey driving more, or if we're just going to do the flying back here when I come back here.
It's. I talked to somebody recently that did a trip to Alaska. They recently retired, and they had no time schedule. They said they didn't have to be anywhere by a certain time. They didn't have to be back by a certain time. And they just loved that freedom of time to just take the camping trailer and go until they wanted to stop, and stay as long as they wanted to stay. And she was just telling me how much she loved that. So are you guys, do you guys have any plans as you're going to travel across the country? Anything you want to see as you're making that trip? Or
there's a few stops we're going to make to see people. We did a lot of the touristy things with the kids when they were younger, so we, checked the box on a lot of those, visiting those places that are historical and memorable. So we're less interested in that. I guess there's some places we haven't seen, and we'll figure those out when we get nearby. But it's mostly visiting old friends, or rather than just places.
I love that idea of your. You were telling me you were going to do coast to coast on a bike trail in Florida with your guys' electric bikes. You've got a plan for that. That sounds
right.
fun.
So that's on the list. And from the Atlantic to the Gulf, there's a bike trail that goes right through Orlando. And we're not going to do it all at once, but we'll, a few days here and a few days there, and stay at some inn or something. And then we have my friend who I mentioned, he's into the biking as well. So we'd have 2 vehicles, and we could, shuttle back and forth and pick each other up and drop off and make it happen, whereas we wouldn't have to go, start to finish and then get a taxi cab back home or something like that. So.
What's the best part so far for you being retired?
Well, I think that it's just fascinating to wake up and decide what you want to do. I mean, not to be governed by responsibilities And there's a freedom there and a kind of a casualness to life. And so I think that's the most enchanting part of it.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned when we were talking just before the interview how you would meet with people when you were working in the elder law arena, and they would talk to you about retirement, and you had this perspective where you could see so clearly from the outside looking in. Tell our listeners about that experience for you, how even though you walked life with a lot of people and counseled them on these things, how it was different.
So my main practice, legal practice, was estate planning. And so not everyone I met was on an accidental safari. There were folks on the intentional safari, and it was always a joy to talk to those people and see what they had planned. And the vast majority, I think, were hesitant as to, well, we're not sure what this is going to look like, or if we're really prepared emotionally or financially. And so we would just have a conversation, and I'd find out what their joys were and sorrows, and what their finances were. And I remember a couple where we got to talk about what their joys were, and he loved sailing and he wanted to buy a boat. And so I looked at his wife, and she kind of had this look on her face like, I don't know, if we want to do that, that's a big commitment. And, I don't know financially. And so then we transitioned into finances, talking about what they had and what their income would be. And I could see that they had done very well. And so I turned to him and looking at her as well, I said, just buy the boat and just do it. And I think that's all he needed to hear. So I would have been fun to be a fly in the car as they left to see what, or maybe I should give him a call. Did you ever buy that boat? But anyway, it was obvious to me that finances were not an issue. And so a lot of people don't know what they have. Well, I have X number of dollars, but is that enough? And how much is enough? Mm-hmm. And enough is related to what you want to do with what you have, who you want to bless, or what you want to experience, and what you want to own. And so it's all one big picture. But I had, after talking to hundreds of people, I could see it was apparent to me what these people wanted out of life they could get. Mm-hmm. And some of them I helped. I gave them some ideas about ways to work around, or what's the reverse mortgage on your house, or do this or sell that or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I was helping them get to where they thought they wanted to go. So that was just, it was easy for me to see that. But when I was going through it myself, I remember stopping and thinking, man, if I could just go to somebody like me and have that conversation, they could just tell me, oh yeah, you could do this and you can do that, and don't worry about this part of it, and just give me that. And I remember telling my daughter that, and that's when she jokingly, only half jokingly, said, well, you need a coach, Dad, to help you get through that. But anyway, I just kept thinking about it, and she kept feeding me some good questions, and I worked my way through it. And that was all part of that. Yeah, it's time. It really is time. And we need to do this. And so we eased into it. Like I said initially, that less work and more play was good. And it's not all play. I still find a lot of gratification in helping people, and I'm doing it a little more practically in some ways, helping when people are doing work, just go give them a hand. And I have met some older people caring for disabled children, and I'm able to give them some help. And so, and you know what that's like. I mean, that's really who you are, and that's your practice, Jason. You just want to help people, and you get so excited when you're able to point somebody in a direction that's going to give them what they think they want out of life. And so you know what I'm talking about.
I do, because I get to walk life with people like you, Richard. It's so fun to be sitting here with you today having this conversation. Because you've been on both sides of the line, this, before retirement, after retirement, it's still pretty fresh because you've only, how long has it been now? A year and a half, a year that you've been retired?
Well, a year for that semi, and then just since January, fully retired.
Fully, okay. Was there anything that surprised you that you wish you would have given more thought or consideration to?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm a pretty easygoing guy, and I just kind of took things as they came, and I'm not a detailed planner, but I was able to identify things that I thought were important. I was able to pull the trigger on, spending some money to have some things happen in retirement. And Gloria's been a great partner, and I feel like what we're doing is ringing her bell as well. So it's just been a real positive, a real plus, all of it.
Are you driving her crazy by being around the house so much, or is it working out good? I know it's a dynamic I hear from people. Sometimes the wife will say, I don't know if I can handle my husband being around here all the time. But
well, we worked together
that's right.
for years. And so, but it is a little different dynamic. So at least I had some part of my life where, I was kind of the manager part of it. At work, I kind of managed things. At home, she managed things. So I don't have that part where I manage things, but I am managing to not hold on to things tightly. Say, okay, sure, that's okay. I'm pretty, like I said, I'm pretty easygoing. So,
any final thoughts, any ahas, anything you would want our listeners to take away from your experience? Anything that would make their life better as they're preparing to make this transition into retirement?
Well, I think you need to have the conversation. Have the conversation with people you trust, who love you. Or the guy or gal in the mirror, and talk about what's important and where you see that going, and just take time to do that and think about it. And if you think you can do both while you're still working and you enjoy your work, then that's fine. Do it that way. If you just are counting the days till you get out of your job, maybe you need to, if finances is an issue, you need to find work that maybe pays you less, but gives you more gratification, so you can do both. You can be kind of retired and you can be enjoying yourself. Take time to pray and to meditate about what your gifts are and how you enjoy giving. I think giving is a key, whether it's, whatever your gift is, if it's hospitality or if it's encouragement or if it's some craft that you have. And there's a real joy that comes from giving yourself away, and you can't outgive God, so you're doing that and you just get blessed in so many other ways. So be free, be open. Like one thing I thought that I might do, I was really open to speaking about the safari, whether it's the accidental or the intentional. And I really haven't seen any opportunities for that. So that's interesting to me. I thought would have had something to say, but I guess it's more personal then, or at least that's the road it's taken since I retired, where I just have that conversation with individuals and not groups. But and you got to be open to to the doors that open and the doors that don't open, and it's like life, it's an attitude. If you want to have a good attitude about what your life is going through, or even if you're in a hard spot, nothing lasts forever. Enjoy the good and work through the bad, and life is good. God is good.
That's good. Richard, thank you so much for sharing your retirement with all of the listeners of Sound Retirement Radio. I know people are going to love this interview, and it's so fun to have had you on the show as the elder law expert, and now to be able to see you in retirement.
As the old man,
in retirement, yeah. Yeah, I just hope they're keeping the lights low, on those water aerobics. Anyways, thanks a lot for being here, Richard.
You are very welcome. My pleasure.
All right, take care.
Information and opinions expressed here are believed to be accurate and complete, for general information only, and should not be construed as specific tax, legal, or financial advice for any individual, and does not constitute a solicitation for any securities or insurance products. Please consult with your financial professional before taking action on anything discussed in this program. Parker Financial, its representatives, or its affiliates have no liability for investment decisions or other actions taken or made by you based on the information provided in this program. All insurance-related discussions are subject to the claims-paying ability of the company. Investing involves risk. Jason Parker is the president of Parker Financial, an independent fee-based wealth management firm located at 9057 Washington Avenue Northwest, Silverdale, Washington. For additional information, call 1-800-514-5046 or visit us online at soundretirementplanning.com.